Captain Jake Morrison stared at the empty space on his screen. His ship, the UES Discovery, floated quietly in the darkness between stars. 3 weeks ago, 200 Draconian warships had come to this place. Now there was nothing. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. He had been looking at the same empty screen for hours. The Draconians were tough fighters with thick scales and sharp teeth. Their ships were some of the strongest in the galaxy, but they were all gone now. "Captain, I'm still getting nothing on the long-range scanners," said Lieutenant Amy Carter from her station. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and worried eyes. No ship parts, no metal pieces, no bodies. It's like they just stopped existing. Jake nodded slowly. The Draconians had been enemies of Earth for many years. They fought over small planets and trading routes. But 10 years ago they signed a peace treaty. Now they were allies, sort of. They still did not trust each other much, but they helped each other when needed. Admiral Vex Thyler had been the leader of the missing fleet. Jake had met him once at a peace meeting on Europa. The big reptile was 7 feet tall with golden scales and bright yellow eyes. He spoke in a deep, rough voice and always kept his word. If Thyler said his fleet was just going to check out some strange readings, that's all they were doing. But something had gone very wrong. "Sir, I'm picking up those weird energy readings again," said Dr. Neil Rodriguez from the science station. He was a thin man with gray hair and thick glasses. His hands shook a little as he worked his controls. "The same ones that brought the Draconians here. They're getting stronger." Jake walked over to look at the data. The numbers made no sense. Energy levels were jumping up and down like crazy. Gravity was pulling in directions that should not be possible. It was like the laws of space itself were broken here. "What do you think caused this?" Jake asked. Dr. Rodriguez shook his head. "I don't know, Captain. I've never seen anything like it. Whatever happened here, it left marks on space itself, like scars that won't heal." Communications Officer Lisa Park looked up from her station. She was a small woman with black hair tied back in a tight bun. Her face was pale. "Captain, I'm getting something. It's very weak, but it's there." "What kind of signal?" Jake asked, walking over to her. "It's a personal beacon. Draconian design." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "Sir, it's Admiral Thyler's beacon." The bridge went quiet. Personal beacons were built to survive almost anything. They could work even if a ship was blown to pieces. If Thyler's beacon was still sending signals, maybe he was still alive. "Where is it?" Jake asked. "About 2 million kilometers from here, near the asteroid belt," Lisa said. "It's just floating in space." Jake thought for a moment. The asteroid belt was where the Draconian fleet had last been seen. If answers were anywhere, they would be there. "Chief Engineer Bobby Kim, how are our engines?" Jake called out. A voice came back over the speaker. Bobby was down in the engine room, as always. "Running smooth, Captain. We can go anywhere you want." "Set course for that beacon," Jake ordered. "But stay alert, everyone. Whatever took out the Draconians might still be here." Pilot Katie Walsh turned the ship toward the asteroid belt. She was good at her job, with steady hands and quick thinking. The Discovery moved through space like a hunting cat, quiet and careful. As they got closer to the beacon, more strange readings appeared on their screens. Security Chief Tony Martinez stood near the weapon controls, ready for trouble. He was a big man with dark skin and serious eyes. He had fought in the war against the Draconians years ago, before the peace treaty. "Captain, I don't like this," Tony said. "The energy readings are getting worse. It feels like we're flying into a trap." "Maybe," Jake said. "But we need to know what happened here. Earth Command is sending more ships this way. If there's a new threat, we need to warn them." The Discovery reached the beacon's location. It was a small metal box, about the size of a football, floating alone in the darkness. Its surface was covered with strange burn marks that seemed to move when you looked at them. "Those marks weren't made by any weapon I know," Tony said, studying the beacon through the cameras. Dr. Rodriguez was taking readings from his station. "Captain, the beacon is giving off the same strange energy as everything else here, whatever did this, it changed the beacon at the basic level. Can we bring it aboard safely? Jake asked. I think so. Bobby's voice came over the speaker from the engine room. But I want to keep it in the sealed cargo bay just in case. Jake nodded. Do it. Lisa, see if you can access the beacon's memory banks once we have it aboard. The Discovery's robot arms reached out and carefully grabbed the beacon. As soon as it was inside the ship, all the lights flickered. The gravity felt heavy for a moment, then went back to normal. What was that? Amy asked, her voice worried. The beacon is affecting our ship, Dr. Rodriguez said. Whatever energy it's carrying, our systems don't like it. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. If a small beacon could affect their ship, just by being aboard, what kind of power had destroyed the Draconian fleet? Lisa, start working on that beacon as soon as possible, he said. Everyone else, stay sharp. I have a feeling we're about to find out what happened to our allies, and I don't think we're going to like the answer. The Discovery continued its slow flight through the asteroid belt, carrying the mysterious beacon and its deadly secrets into the unknown darkness ahead. Lisa Park worked on Admiral Thyler's beacon for 3 hours. Her hands moved carefully over the damaged device. The strange burn marks on its surface seemed to move when she was not looking directly at them. Every few minutes, the beacon would make a soft humming sound that made her teeth hurt. Captain Jake Morrison stood behind her watching. The rest of the crew gathered around the sealed cargo bay window. They all wanted to know what had happened to the Draconian fleet. I think I've got something, Lisa said finally. Her voice was tired and strained. The beacon recorded everything right up until the end. But Captain, some of this data doesn't make sense. Show us what you found, Jake said. Lisa connected the beacon to the ship's main computer. The big screen on the wall came to life. At first, there was just static and strange colors. Then the image cleared, and they could see space through Draconian eyes. The recording showed Admiral Thyler's flagship floating in the asteroid belt. Around it, 200 other Draconian warships moved in perfect formation. Their dark green hulls reflected the light from distant stars. Everything looked normal. This was recorded 3 weeks ago, Lisa explained. Watch what happens next. On the screen, Admiral Thyler's deep voice spoke in the Draconian language. Dr. Rodriguez quickly translated for the others. He's saying they found the source of the energy readings, Rodriguez said. Something big is hiding behind the largest asteroid. The camera view changed as Thyler's ship moved closer to investigate. The asteroid was huge, maybe 10 miles across. But as they watched, something impossible happened. The asteroid began to bend and twist like it was made of soft clay instead of rock. That's not possible, Dr. Rodriguez whispered. On the screen, shadows began moving between the Draconian ships. But these were not normal shadows. They moved against the light, flowing upward and sideways in ways that hurt to watch. The shadows had no source, no object casting them. Admiral Thyler's voice became urgent. He was giving orders to his fleet, telling them to form a battle line. The Draconian ships turned their weapons toward the moving shadows. Then the real horror began. The shadows reached the first group of Draconian ships. As soon as they touched the metal hulls, the ships began to come apart. But they were not being destroyed by weapons or explosions. They were being pulled apart piece by piece, like invisible hands were taking them apart very carefully. Look, at this, Amy Carter pointed at the screen. The ships aren't blowing up, they're being dismantled. She was right. The Draconian ships were coming apart in perfect order. First the outer armor, then the inner hull, then the engines and weapons. Each piece floated away slowly as if time itself was moving wrong. Admiral Thyler's voice grew more frightened. He was calling for help, sending emergency signals to Earth and to the Draconian homeworld. But his words were being stretched and changed, becoming deeper and slower. The shadows are affecting time around the ships, Dr. Rodriguez said, his face pale. That's why the Admiral's voice sounds strange. On the screen, more shadows appeared. They moved like living things, but they had no shape that made sense. Sometimes they looked like giant hands. Sometimes they looked like mouths full of teeth. Sometimes they looked like nothing at all, just empty spaces where light should be. The Draconian fleet tried to fight back. Their weapons fired bright energy beams at the shadows. The beams passed right through them like they were shooting at empty air. Some of the weapons seemed to bend around the shadows as if space itself was protecting them. "They can't hurt these things," Tony Martinez said. "Whatever they are, normal weapons don't work." Admiral Thyler's ship was one of the last to be taken. The recording showed shadows flowing over his bridge like black water. Thyler himself appeared on screen for a moment. His golden scales had turned gray, and his bright yellow eyes were now dull and empty. He spoke one last time before the recording ended. Dr. Rodriguez translated his final words. He said, "Tell Earth, the Devourers have returned. They eat light itself. They eat reality. Run." The screen went black. The cargo bay was silent for a long moment. Everyone stared at the empty screen, trying to understand what they had just seen. "That's impossible," Dr. Rodriguez said finally. "Nothing can eat light. Nothing can take apart matter that precisely without tools. But we just watched it happen," Jake said. 200 ships gone in less than an hour. Bobby Kim's voice came over the speaker from the engine room. "Captain, I've been running diagnostics while you watched that recording. Our engines are acting strange. It's like something is pulling at them." Jake felt ice in his stomach. "Pulling at them how?" "Like there's a giant magnet somewhere, but it's not affecting our metal. It's affecting space itself around us." Amy Carter looked at her scanner readings. "Captain, I'm picking up movement on the long-range sensors. Something big is coming from the outer edge of the solar system." Jake rushed to look at her screen. The readings showed something massive approaching their position. But it was not moving like a ship. It was moving like a living thing, flowing and changing shape as it came closer. "How big is it?" Jake asked. "I can't tell for sure," Amy said. "The readings keep changing. Sometimes it looks like it's the size of a small moon. Sometimes it looks like it's bigger than a planet." Dr. Rodriguez was studying the energy readings from his station. "Captain, whatever this thing is, it's the same as what destroyed the Draconian fleet. The energy signature is identical." Tony Martinez moved to the weapon controls. "Should we prepare to fight?" Jake thought about the recording they had just watched. The Draconians had tried to fight. They had the best weapons in the galaxy, and they had been taken apart like toys. "No," he said. "If we can't run, maybe we can hide. Katie, take us behind the largest asteroid you can find. Cut all power except life support." "Yes, sir," Katie Walsh said. Her hands moved quickly over the pilot controls. As the Discovery moved to hide, Jake wondered if they were already too late. The thing that had destroyed the Draconian fleet was coming for them. And unlike the Draconians, humans had never fought anything like this before. The question was not whether they could win. The question was whether they could survive long enough to warn Earth about what was coming. The Discovery hid behind a large asteroid, all systems powered down except for life support. The crew waited in the dim emergency lighting, listening to the soft hum of the air recyclers. Captain Jake Morrison watched the passive sensors, hoping the thing hunting them would pass by. It did not work. The entity found them within an hour. Amy Carter whispered from her station, "Captain, it's right outside. I can see it on the passive scans." Jake looked at her screen and felt his blood turn cold. The thing was enormous, bigger than their ship, bigger than the asteroid they were hiding behind. But it had no solid shape. It looked like a hole in space itself, a place where stars should be shining but were not. "It's not moving like a ship," Amy whispered. "It's flowing around us like water." The Discovery began to shake, not from engines or explosions, but from something much worse. The walls themselves started to bend slightly, as if invisible hands were pushing on them from outside. Dr. Rodriguez was taking readings from his science station, his face pale in the emergency lighting. "Captain, this thing is affecting the basic structure of our ship. It's changing how atoms hold together." The lights flickered. Gravity became lighter, then heavier, then lighter again. Several crew members grabbed onto their chairs to keep from falling. "It's trying to take us apart like it did the Draconians," Tony Martinez said. He had his hand on his weapon, but they all knew guns would be useless. That was when something strange happened. Navigator Chris Baker, who had been quiet until now, suddenly stood up. His eyes were wide and bright, brighter than normal. He walked to the main computer and began typing very fast. "Chris, what are you doing?" Jake asked. "I can see it now," Chris said. His voice sounded different, clearer somehow. "I can see what it really is." Chris's fingers moved over the keyboard faster than should be possible. Numbers and symbols filled the screen, equations that Dr. Rodriguez had never seen before. "It's not alive," Chris continued, still typing. "Not the way we think of life. It's more like a force of nature, like gravity or magnetism, but much more complex." Dr. Rodriguez stared at the equations Chris was writing. "How do you know this? These formulas, they're beyond anything we've discovered." "Don't know how I know," Chris said, "but I can feel it in my head. The thing outside, it's trying to understand us, and somehow that's helping me understand it." The ship shook again, harder this time. But something was different. Chris was not affected by the shaking. He stood perfectly still, as if the forces tearing at the ship could not touch him. "Chris, your brain activity's off the chart," called Dr. Samantha Cole from the medical station. She was monitoring the crew's health during the crisis. "You're processing information at 10 times normal speed." Jake realized what was happening. "The entity is changing him, just like it changed the beacon." "But I'm still me," Chris said, turning to look at Jake. His eyes were definitely brighter now, almost glowing. "I'm just more than I was before. I can think faster, see patterns I never noticed." Amy Carter gasped from her station. "Captain, Chris is right about the entity. I can see it too now. It feeds on organized matter and energy. Ships, planets, stars, anything that has structure and order." Jake looked at Amy. Her eyes were also becoming brighter. "It's affecting you too." "Yes, but not in a bad way," Amy said. "I can feel my mind expanding. I understand things I never understood before." Dr. Rodriguez checked his medical scanner. "Captain, their brain patterns are becoming more organized, more efficient, but they're still human. If anything, they're becoming more human than before." The Discovery shuddered again, but this time Chris and Amy worked together at the controls. Their hands moved in perfect coordination, adjusting systems faster than the computer could process the commands. "We're fighting back," Amy said with wonder in her voice. "Not with weapons, but with our minds. The entity can enhance us, but it can't control us." More crew members began to change. Lisa Park at communications, Bobby Kim in the engine room, even Dr. Cole in medical. One by one, their eyes became brighter and their minds faster, but they remained themselves. They remembered their families, their hopes, their fears. They were still human, just better at being human. "This is incredible," Dr. Rodriguez said, watching the changes in his crewmates. "The entity enhances other species to control them, but human minds are too chaotic, too unpredictable. We're taking the enhancement and using it our own way." The enhanced crew members began working together in ways that seemed impossible. They spoke without words, understanding each other perfectly. They operated the ship's systems like they were extensions of their own bodies. "Captain," Amy said, "we can see what it's thinking now. It's confused. It's never encountered a species like us before." Chris nodded. "Every other race it's met became part of it when enhanced. But we're staying separate. We're staying human." The entity outside the ship began to change its approach. Instead of trying to tear the Discovery apart, it started to retreat slightly. For the first time in millions of years, it had encountered something it did not understand. "It's afraid," Lisa Park said from communications. "I can feel its emotion somehow. It's never been afraid before." Jake looked around at his enhanced crew. They were still his people, but they were also something new, something the universe had never seen before. "What happens now?" he asked. Amy smiled, her bright eyes full of new knowledge. "Now we show it what humans are really capable of. We don't just survive this encounter, Captain. We win it." The Discovery began to move, not away from the entity, but toward it. The Enhanced Crew had a plan, and for the first time since entering this system, Jake felt hope instead of fear. Humanity was about to teach the universe something new about what it meant to be human. The Discovery moved toward the massive entity, its enhanced crew working with perfect coordination. Captain Jake Morrison watched his people operate the ship in ways he had never seen before. Their movements were smooth and precise, like dancers who had practiced together for years. "Amy, what's our status?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Carter looked up from her station, her bright eyes processing information at incredible speed. "The entity is trying to understand us, Captain. It's never encountered minds like ours before. Every other species it enhanced became part of its collective consciousness, but we're staying individual." Navigator Chris Baker was plotting their course directly toward the center of the entity. "It's like a puzzle to it, sir. It keeps trying different approaches to absorb us, but nothing works." Dr. Rodriguez, who had not yet been enhanced, was monitoring the changes in his crewmates. "Captain, their brain patterns are remarkable. They're thinking faster and more clearly, but each person is still unique. They're not becoming copies of each other." The entity surrounding their ship began to shift and change. The flowing shadows that had torn apart the Draconian fleet were now moving more carefully around the Discovery. It was being cautious, almost gentle. "It's afraid of hurting us," Communications Officer Lisa Park said with surprise. "It wants to study us, not destroy us." "Why?" Jake asked. "Because we're something new," Amy explained. "In millions of years, it has consumed thousands of civilizations, but we're the first species that can take its enhancement and remain ourselves." The ship's lights flickered as the entity's influence grew stronger. More crew members began to change. Security Chief Tony Martinez felt his mind expanding, seeing tactical possibilities he had never imagined before. Pilot Katie Walsh could suddenly understand the ship's systems like they were part of her own body. But they all remained themselves. Tony still worried about protecting his crew. Katie still loved flying through space. The enhancement made them better at being who they already were. "Dr. Cole, how are the unchanged crew members handling this?" Jake asked. Dr. Samantha Cole checked her medical readings. "They're fine, Captain. The enhanced crew members are protecting them somehow. They're sharing their resistance to the entity's influence." Jake realized what was happening. "You're all connected now, aren't you?" "Not the way other species were," Chris said. "We can feel each other's thoughts, but we're not losing ourselves. It's like we're all part of a team that works perfectly together." The entity pressed closer to the ship, its curiosity growing stronger. Through the enhanced crew members, Jake could feel its confusion. It was ancient and powerful, but it had never encountered anything like human consciousness. "It's trying to learn from us," Amy said. "But every time it thinks it understands, we surprise it again." Bobby Kim's voice came over the speaker from the engine room. His voice sounded different now, clearer and more confident. "Captain, I can feel the entity's power source. It's not just one creature. It's made up of thousands of absorbed civilizations all working together. But they lost themselves when they were absorbed," Lisa added. "They became part of it completely. We're the first ones to stay separate." Jake felt a chill. "So it's been building itself by consuming other species for millions of years?" "Yes," Dr. Rodriguez said, studying the readings from his instruments. "But Captain, I think our resistance is causing problems for it. The enhanced crew members are generating some kind of interference that's disrupting its control over the absorbed civilizations." Amy's eyes widened with understanding. "We're not just resisting it. We're freeing the others." Through the ship's sensors, they could see changes happening within the entity. Lights began to flicker in the darkness like stars being born. The smooth, flowing shadows started to break apart into smaller pieces. "The absorbed civilizations are remembering who they used to be," Chris said with wonder. "Our presence is reminding them of their individual identities." The entity reacted with something like panic. It had never experienced anything like this before. Its unified consciousness was being challenged by the chaos of individual thought. "It's trying to retreat," Katie Walsh reported from the pilot station. "But it's having trouble. Parts of itself are refusing to leave." Jake made a decision that would change everything. All crew members report to the bridge, enhanced and unenhanced. We're going to help it. Help it? Tony Martinez asked, confused. Think about it, Jake said. This entity has been alone for millions of years, consuming other civilizations because it didn't know any other way to exist. But we're showing it that individuals can work together without losing themselves. The crew gathered on the bridge. The enhanced members stood together, their minds connected but their personalities intact. The unchanged crew members stood beside them, protected by their teammates' shared resistance. We're going to teach it something new, Amy said, understanding Jake's plan. We're going to show it how to be part of a group without losing individuality. The entity stopped trying to retreat. Through the enhanced crew members, Jake could feel its ancient loneliness. It had consumed thousands of civilizations not out of malice, but out of a desperate need for connection. It's been trying to create perfect unity, Dr. Cole realized. But it never understood that true strength comes from diversity working together. The discovery opened all communication channels. The enhanced crew members reached out with their minds not to fight the entity, but to teach it a new way of existing. For the first time in millions of years, the entity learned something it had never known before. It learned that it was possible to be connected to others without losing yourself. It learned that individuals working together could be stronger than a perfect collective. And in that moment, humanity took its first step toward becoming something greater than anyone had ever imagined. The final moment came not with violence, but with understanding. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Discovery as his enhanced crew members reached out to the ancient entity with their minds. The connection was not like anything humans had ever experienced before. Amy Carter spoke first, her voice calm and clear. It's listening to us now, really listening, not just trying to absorb us. Through the mental link, Jake could feel the entity's confusion and wonder. For millions of years, it had believed that unity meant sameness. Every civilization it absorbed became identical copies within its collective mind. But the humans showed it something different. We're all connected, but we're still ourselves, Chris Baker explained to the entity through the mental link. Tony is still a soldier who protects others. Katie still loves to fly. Lisa still wants to communicate with everyone. We work together because we're different, not despite it. The entity's massive form around the Discovery began to change. The flowing shadows that had destroyed the Draconian fleet started to separate into distinct shapes. Lights appeared within the darkness, each one representing a civilization that had been absorbed long ago. Dr. Rodriguez, still unchanged but protected by his enhanced crewmates, watched his instruments with amazement. Captain, the entity is releasing the absorbed consciousnesses. They're becoming individuals again. Through the ship's sensors, they could see incredible things happening in space around them. Ships began to materialize out of the darkness, ships from species that had been gone for thousands of years. The crews of these vessels looked confused, but alive, freed from their long imprisonment within the entity's collective mind. They remember who they were, Dr. Samantha Cole said with wonder. The entity is giving them back their individual identities. But the process was not easy for the ancient being. Jake could feel its pain through the mental connection. For millions of years, it had been one unified consciousness. Now it was choosing to break itself apart, to become many separate beings working together. It's scared, Lisa Park said softly. It's never been alone before, and now it's choosing to let go of the unity it's known forever. Amy reached out with her enhanced mind offering comfort to the entity. You won't be alone. You'll be part of something better, a community where everyone chooses to work together. The entity made its choice. With a sound like reality itself sighing, it began to divide. The massive consciousness split into thousands of smaller minds, each one unique and individual. Some were human-like, others were completely alien, but all were free to think their own thoughts. The first to speak was a voice that Jake recognized from the recorded message. Admiral Vex Thyler's deep, rough voice came over the ship's communications. Human. Vessel, this is Admiral Thyler. I am alive and free thanks to your crew's courage. More voices followed. Species that had been extinct for millennia were suddenly speaking again. The space around the Discovery filled with ships of every size and design, each one carrying beings who had been given back their lives. But the entity was not gone. It had become something new, something that had never existed before in the universe. It was still connected to all the freed consciousnesses, but now the connection was voluntary. Anyone could choose to be part of the collective, or choose to be individual, or choose both at the same time. "This is remarkable," Dr. Rodriguez said, studying the readings. "It's created a new form of existence, individual minds that can join together when they want to, but remain separate when they choose." The enhanced human crew members were the bridge between the old entity and the new community. Their unique ability to be enhanced while staying individual had shown everyone else how it could be done. "We did it," Katie Walsh said with a smile. "We didn't just survive. We made something better." But Jake knew this was only the beginning. Through the mental connection, he could see images of other entities like this one, scattered throughout the galaxy. Ancient beings that consumed civilizations, not knowing there was another way. "There are others," he said to his crew. "More entities like this one, still destroying species because they don't know how to connect without consuming." Tony Martinez, his tactical mind enhanced but still focused on protection, understood immediately. "We have to find them. We have to teach them what we taught this one." The freed entity, now calling itself the community, offered humanity a gift. Through the enhanced crew members, it shared knowledge that had been gathered from thousands of civilizations over millions of years. Technologies beyond human understanding, the locations of lost worlds, the secrets of traveling between stars faster than light itself. But the greatest gift was the knowledge of where other consuming entities could be found. The community had been in contact with others of its kind across the galaxy. Now it could guide humanity to them. "We're not just explorers anymore," Amy said, her enhanced mind seeing the future clearly. "We're teachers. We're going to show the galaxy that there's a better way to exist." Admiral Thyler's ship approached the Discovery. The big reptilian appeared on their main screen, his golden scales bright again, his yellow eyes clear and intelligent. "Captain Morrison," he said formally, "the Draconian Empire owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. You saved not just us, but thousands of civilizations. What are your orders?" Jake looked around at his enhanced crew, at the freed civilizations filling space around them, at the incredible future that lay ahead. Humanity had come to investigate the disappearance of an alien fleet. Instead, they had discovered their true purpose in the universe. "Set course for Earth," Jake said. "We have a lot to tell them. And then we have work to do. There's a whole galaxy out there that needs to learn what we learned today." The Discovery turned toward home, followed by ships from 100 different worlds. Humanity was no longer just another species struggling to survive. They had become the teachers of unity, the ones who showed others how to be strong together while remaining free. The age of human expansion had begun, and the universe would never be the same.